Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all around the world, to Gateway Cinema, episode 3 of the season 1, with Christopher Nolan being the anchor of this season, and the movie of which we are doing from his today will be Batman Begins, followed by Taxi Driver, and then followed by First Reformed. Not followed by or followed by, actually could be in any order. I think we're not actually starting with Batman at all, but anywho, Ben, do you want to take us off with an intro about whatever it is you want to start off with?
Well, I can do an intro about Batman Begins for those listeners who haven't come across Batman Begins. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. For those of you who have not seen or heard of Batman Begins, the film opens with Bruce Wayne engaging the latest in many brawls with his fellow prisoners somewhere in Asia. I suspect it's Tibet, but it's never confirmed. Following which, he is placed in solitary, not for his own protection, but for those of the prisoners, and is met by a man named Ducard, played by Liam Neeson. He offers him a place in the League of Shadows, an organisation whose purpose is, and has been for centuries, to deliver justice around the world. Wayne takes him up on the offer and begins his training.
Batman Begins.
So, yeah.
Training.
So,
did you guys see the Michael Keaton
Batman...
tweet? No, sorry, Michael Caine tweet.
No.
This was very funny. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna have to do this. He tweeted like 2 months ago. He tweeted, "Why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves up. Batman Begin."
Okay.
Is that it? Is that the whole tweet? That's quite good, isn't it?
That's quite
is there any punctuation in there at all, or is it just like
maybe it's like dash Batman Begin? I think it might have been a picture. I'm gonna find
That's
it.
quite good. I do like that.
He's an old man.
Batman do begin.
Batman Begin. Oh yeah. Here it is. I guess I'll put it in.
Oh, I can't. Oh yeah.
It's
yeah, I can
backwards.
see it. Wow.
Batman Begin. I'll cut
All
that
right.
out. I bombed there.
You did a bit.
So, I think Batman Begins was the first Nolan film that I watched, and I think it's easily one. Yeah, it's easily one of my favorites. I think when we did the all-time Nolan ranking, I think I put it as 4th, but honestly, it could easily go up to 3rd depending on the day. Just ahead of The Dark Knight. It's really neck and neck between those two. And I was a little bit worried going into Batman Begins this week. Not gonna lie, I was thinking, shit, have I seen it too recently for me to actually enjoy it and potentially prefer it to First Reformed? And I was really surprised to say that no, Batman Begins was still the favourite film that I saw this week, even though I only saw it in June last.
Did you watch Taxi Driver this week as well?
I did. Yeah, so I watched First Reformed on Thursday. First Reformed on Thursday morning, very, very early on Thursday morning.
4 a.m.
Yeah, 4 a.m. Because my body just decides to wake
Psycho.
up that time randomly. Then Batman Begins that evening, and then Taxi Driver this
Batman
evening.
Begin.
And out of all three of them, Batman Begins is definitely my favourite.
It's so
Haroon,
dumb. Sorry, not you, Ben. Matt's being stupid.
Haroon, what are your thoughts on Batman Begins?
Oh man, I like it. I really love Batman Begin. And I tell you what, sometimes a movie title really is just what it says. What the movie is supposed to be. What it says in the tin. Batman Begun in Batman Begins. I tell you what I like about Batman Begins. I guess Morgan Freeman is good in everything. I love Batman and Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine and just this trio. There's 2 old dudes and like a ninja. Like
I think I forgot Morgan Freeman was
billionaire ninja.
Yeah.
And he's barely got any lines, but his presence is really it's very warm, it's very reassuring.
Morgan.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of really good moments with him. It's like, in fact, I'd go as far as say pretty much every moment he's on screen is a really good moment in the movie. And then there are some cheesy cathartic moments near the end whereby I think the CEO gets fired and he's like, well,
didn't you get the memo?
Didn't you get the memo? He's so snarky, man. But yeah, I like Michael Caine, obviously. And in fact, I think Christian Bale does a decent-ish job, although it seems
I
slightly
think he's
wooden.
really good.
It seems slightly wooden.
I think the woodenness works because he's like a fucking posh cunt. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, especially it is funny when he's like meant to be like a 21-year-old, and it's just Christian.
Oh
Bale
yeah, when he's
in.
got the gun.
I'm back from Princeton. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it works. I think the woodenness sort of like feeds into the character.
I think it's more like stoicism. He's just really.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
I want to start from the beginning of Batman Begins here. The begin of the begin. And so, yeah. I think
origin part is my favorite bit.
Nolan managed to insert his non-linear storytelling in Batman Begin, even if it was just for the first 20 minutes.
It's like the first half, probably. It goes back and forth quite a lot. It is.
At least
he doesn't.
At least the first.
Batman doesn't show up in costume until an hour 20 in or something like that.
It starts, but it stops cutting to a different period of time once he saves Ra's al Ghul. And then he comes back to Chicago and New York. Chicago. And so I like the non-linear story of him being young, him being 20s and angsty a bit, and him about to murder someone, arguably not in cold blood, but illegally to murder someone.
All murders. An illegal murder.
I suppose I don't really know what the word cold blood means, but I wouldn't.
Cold blood is like defenseless.
Okay, then it would have been yes, a cold-blooded revenge murder, a revenge-fueled cold-blooded murder, yeah. But arguably justifiable. Who knows? It's a different conversation for a different time. So I love the training arc. I like how anime this Batman Begins movie is. It's very anime. He does his training arc with his master, who happens to be evil. He comes back, continues his training arc, befriends a cop, and then fights his old master in an epic battle. And everything sort of works itself out in the end. There's a lot of fear, the theme of fear. What did you think about the theme of fear, Ben?
So it took me quite a few views to actually get that is a big part of the film.
Really?
Like, I got
they
it
say
before
it
this.
about 100 times.
They do say it.
Yeah,
I'm going to put in a compilation of every time they say fear.
But as in, you know how
when Bruce
Batman
Wayne's dad dies,
you always fear what you don't understand.
Batman
he got spirit kid, I'll give you that.
chooses to be a Batman because he's scared of bats.
Yeah.
The villain in the movie has fear gas.
Well,
how did you miss this?
Liam Neeson's like talking about fear as soon as he gets there.
So I
the whole
training arc. It was a big part of Batman.
Is when
I understood it was a big part of Batman.
Scary
when he's
gas
talking
and
about
says you need to overcome your fears.
Yeah. So this was something
and that's
that I understood.
How you become a ninja.
Yeah. So this is something I understood on the first few views, but I think it was only in the later views where I actually realized, oh, the villains are also using it, and we're not just talking about the League of Shadows, but the fact that Carmine Falcone is also talking about, like you said, Matt, you always fear what you don't understand, and various other things. And it was just, I think it was something that, well,
nothing.
Another quote from Falcone.
And yeah, I thought I really liked how that fits in with the film. Also, this reminded me a lot more of Matt Reeves' The Batman than the remaining two films in Dark Knight trilogy, which was something that I never actually clocked until I was watching it this time around. I think it's because you see a lot more of the city close up. It's raining a lot more.
He stops caring about making it like comic booky after this film. Like you don't get like the Narrows or whatever where it's like all green fucking smoke coming from it. And
that was a pretty cool part of the movie, but it's very much created an environmental inconsistency for me, seeing a lot of like clinical city shots, and then you go to, I think a lot of those narrows seem to be a lot of CGI maybe. I think it seemed green screened, yeah.
I think it'll be miniatures.
But it did definitely give it quite a comic book feel to it, and I like that.
I did like that as well, and I do wish he'd go a bit harder on that in the next two, but I guess it doesn't bother me that much either.
Yeah, he just wanted to turn Batman into crime thrillers basically instead of superhero movies.
Yeah, and I think his over-explaining of everything really works in this film. And I'd say the setup is my favorite part of the movie. Like when he is training and when it is jumping back and forth and like getting into the like, why the fuck would someone do this? Arc. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to say something about that because I think with Nolan's use of time, I'm quite mixed on it because we spoke about Dunkirk and the fact that I thought with Dunkirk it came across as quite pretentious to me. I like it in Interstellar, I like it in Inception, I hate it in Memento, I just hate it so much. Whereas I think in this film, I think is the ideal way for it to be done, where you see someone go down a particular course of actions, and like you said, you're thinking, why is someone doing this? And then it just flashes back in time, just the right time for it. And I like the fact that the film is technically going in one direction. It's giving you exposition filler in the meantime. But I think it does it well. I think it's not as if you just have these people giving these really forced, contrived conversations where you can clearly tell the only reason why it's being said is so that they can fill in the plot details. It actually is going back and showing you the reasons, which I quite like.
This might be his only character study. It does feel like a character study to me, this film. Like, it way more gets into the psychology of why someone would dress up in a bat suit and beat up people at night.
Yeah, it does. And yeah, I really like it. I think for the reason of depth, which I think is always lacking in Marvel films, or at least to the same degree.
For sure. Well, yeah, MCU films. They never would even bother like explaining why anyone does anything. Or even offer any critique on it.
I don't think that's strictly true, and this isn't so much me putting Marvel on a pedestal as it is probably taking Nolan down a notch, because they do
Iron Man does.
Yeah, I was just about to say, in Iron Man 1, he becomes Iron Man because he doesn't like the fact that he sells weapons to the United States government, and then he becomes the weapon himself. It's very weird.
It is weird, and it's very uncritical of it. Where this film, it does feel critical. Like, there's that line where he's like, when I first stole because I was hungry, it made me not view criminality as so black and white, or something along those lines. And I'm like, at least
that is so childish. That's just such a childish thing.
It's something though. It's something compared to Tony Stark flies to Afghanistan and blows up a village. I'm so
rich. Yeah, in order to get into the mind of a criminal, first time I stole, it's because I was hungry, and that taught me that stealing can be not so bad.
But is that not a good thing though? That Batman doesn't think that you should fucking murder criminals who steal.
Incredibly childish logic, really, and like it's something a
it's not because he's a billionaire. He doesn't know that. He is a child. He's fucking traumatized. He's emotionally stunted from his parents' murder and has lived a life of luxury and doesn't know anything about needing to feed yourself. And so it is understandable that when he is put in a position where he does need to feed himself, he's like, wait, maybe morality isn't so fucking...
Yeah, but that's obvious to people that don't steal. Or aren't poor. Right?
Some know. Some people think... Bro, in Taxi Driver, he shoots someone stealing. We don't know why he's stealing. Clearly people... Well, obviously that's a movie too, but... Clearly, really people have the ideology that thievery is wrong all the time.
Who does he shoot? Who stole?
There's a guy. He stops like a convenience store robbery. He shoots a guy.
Oh yeah.
I just don't really know if Travis Bickle and Bruce Wayne are analogous characters.
Okay, well, no, I'm saying that they're the opposite. Because you're saying everyone knows that stealing's okay when you're hungry, and I'm saying
no, I would say I don't know. It's like Bruce Wayne seems like he's got his head on straight. Actually, no. What am I
He was
saying?
going to go
He
murder
goes to
someone.
Prison. Yeah,
he's doing
goes,
that to
yeah,
get his head
yeah.
on straight because he's known
Right.
nothing but fucking one scene before, chronologically at least. Falcone's like, just because your parents were killed, you think you know about the ugly side of life? It's all
desperate.
leading up to that. Oh,
He said you
that's a
filed a
good
beg
scene.
like a dog. I love that
You're
scene
good
so
at that
much.
voice.
I've seen it so many times. That's why. Yeah. Anything else to say about Batman Begins? I think what I like the most about this film. Sorry, not the most about this film. What I think this film does best, I think, out of all the Nolan films, is weave in comedy. Because I actually found myself laughing quite a lot at this film. And I remember thinking, yeah, Nolan actually does comedy really well in the sense that he just slips it in. He doesn't go out of his way to do a joke.
He's never like winking
just
at
slips it in. Yeah, and I like it when what was it? Fox is showing Bruce Wayne, essentially the weapon supplies, all the equipment that's available in his department, and then what was he takes him for a ride in the Tumbler, and just that whole interaction between Fox and Bruce Wayne.
Jesus. What's going on with you?
Keeping a PG.
What's going on with you?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a
dirty,
PG
horrible
podcast. You're saying it. I'm just observing.
I don't know. Maybe it's revealing something subconscious in me. Who knows?
Perhaps, perhaps after Taxi Driver.
Oh God!
Did something to you.
But something else that I liked about this film was the fact that music definitely features really heavily in this film, like it does with all of Nolan's films. But I thought it did it
I didn't
super
catch
well.
Too much of a soundtrack for some reason.
I like the music. Nah, it was good. I think didn't two people do this one? I'm gonna check.
Yes,
that.
It was Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard, and they both composed the one for The Dark Knight as well. But for Dark Knight Rises, it was just Hans Zimmer.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't know that he did it. Yeah,
James Newton Howard, I think, is he's not praised enough because I love Hans Zimmer. I think Hans Zimmer is my favorite, but I think James Newton Howard has done quite a few good scores. Like he's done a couple with Hans Zimmer. I think he's also worked with M. Night Shyamalan a few times. I do quite like his scores; they're worth listening to.
I think I heard that one of them did all Bruce Wayne's stuff and one of them did Batman's stuff, which is a cool thing to do.
Yeah, that is quite.
That is pretty cool.
So on the topic of Bruce Wayne, I did just have this thought whilst I was watching the movie. You know, when he goes into the hotel, he's got his harem of women. I wasn't going to say it. You said that. And he goes into the hotel, and Bruce Wayne sits down with his important guests that have lots of money, and the girls go. They're in a restaurant in a hotel, and these girls go off to what seems to be just like a fountain bath in the restaurant for decoration, and they just get in and start playing around in this fountain bath, and it's such a funny scene. And then the waiter comes over and he's like, you can't they can't do this, you need to leave. And he's like, no, I'm buying the hotel. He writes out a check for what, like $1 billion, and then puts it in the waiter's pocket and says, I'm buying the hotel. And then he gets in the pool with them. It's like, it's so funny. And what it made me immediately think of is like, this man behaves appallingly throughout this movie when he's being Bruce Wayne, trying to portray this facade in order to create such a polarization between himself and Batman that no one could suspect it, even though it's blindingly obvious to anyone with a brain. But regardless, what I thought was that who Bruce Wayne is, who he closely resembles more than anyone to me in the real world, is an Andrew Tate character. He literally is this guy. He is a terrible misogynist, wannabe, playboy. I suppose Andrew Tate's more of a wannabe playboy. And he literally just puts on this persona. And just how funny would it be if Andrew Tate was Batman is what came to my mind. I just think that's the funny thought.
I think it'd be way too soft on Andrew Tate if you're going to compare it to Bruce Wayne. Like I'm just trying to think of the equivalent.
Yeah, he's got trafficking allegations. To be fair, I don't think Bruce Wayne did any of that. we'll get to the other two movies, but for the viewers listening today, Maggie Smith sadly passed away, and I was watching some of her previous interviewer. Yeah,
No,
she
that's
passed away
first
today.
I've heard
Yeah.
it.
It's very sad.
This is the Professor McGonagall.
That's right.
Yeah.
Downton Abbey.
Oh shit.
Best Exotic Marigold Hotel 2, the second best exotic Marigold Hotel.
Anyways, so I was just looking at some of her old interviews, and she was asked why she doesn't watch her movies, and because she doesn't watch her movies. Same with Jesse Eisenberg; he doesn't watch his movies.
Same with
Daniel Radcliffe.
Jared Leto.
Oh, Jared Leto.
Yeah.
You didn't need to bring him up.
So we
He's
all
the
agree
Joker,
that Jared
baby.
Leto is just a woefully bad actor.
I like him in Fight Club.
No, he's good in Requiem.
Yeah, Fight Club I think is the only film I've seen him in where I
He's
thought,
good in Panic
you did a
Room.
good job there.
He's got like
Panic Room's supposed to be really good. I've seen
dreads
that.
in Panic Room.
Yeah, he's okay.
But just on Maggie Smith for a moment, she was asked why she doesn't watch her movies, and she was like, because it's permanent in a Scottish accent. Or maybe she's not Scottish. She could definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't know. I think she's got a Scottish accent in Harry Potter, and so.
She does.
She does.
But I thought it was an interesting bit of psychology that from a big named actor who won't watch her own movies, and her reasoning was it's not like a play where you get to improve and try again next time. Like you do the movie, the final take is the final take, and that's that. And you can watch it, and if you're not happy with it, unfortunately, it's there forever. So yeah, it's an interesting.
I don't think Christian Bale watches his own movies.
You don't think he does, or he does?
I don't think he does. I'm going to Google this. I'm pretty sure he said that.
I mean, I don't. I thought it would be more normal for an actor not to watch their movies than it is for them to, because I think when they see a film, I don't think it's just the fact that they're in the film that weirds them out. I think it's the fact that they're watching it and they don't quite see a film. I think they watch it and they think, oh yeah, I remember when we tried to do this shoot a whole number of times, this thing happened, and if it's like they don't so much view it as a film, but they remember all the different things that went into making it. And I think Daniel Radcliffe has also said that he doesn't watch Harry Potter, when it comes on around like Christmas time.
Yeah, but he wouldn't,
he says
because
weird
it's too much for him, I would guess.
Watching himself as a child would be fucking weird as well.
Yeah, that would screw you up, I think.
Yeah, like. Yeah,
and also, it's everything he is all over the world, basically, Daniel Radcliffe. He isn't anything but Harry Potter, which is, I don't know what that means.
Have you seen Horns?
I've heard of Horns.
Guns Akimbo sucks dick. I hated that so much. I mean, it was kind of funny.
Actually.
I sort of found it funny, but I found it so obnoxiously like millennial that it just pissed me off so much.
What about Escape from Pretoria? I remember enjoying that one.
What about Imperium, where he plays a neo-Nazi?
I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen that either.
I completely forgot about that one as well, actually.
Can't help himself.
Do we have anything else to say about Batman Begins?
I just liked it, man.
Notes written down. It just is
I haven't
good.
written anything down for it either. It just is. It's fine. It's a very good comic book movie. I wouldn't probably say it's like an S tier comic book movie. Probably an A tier. Good A tier.
Good A
Very good
tier.
A tier.
Yeah. There's probably a couple I'd put over it, but it's up there for me. Probably top.
They're in my opinion, I think there are lots of much better superhero movies than that you could watch. I think
it's really up there for me.
I can't agree. I think it's easily
Logan
one of.
is
the X-Men films are good.
I
think one of these days
Spider-Man
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
the Raimi trilogy.
Yeah, Into Spider-Verse, Logan, maybe X2.
Yeah, me and Matt watched.
I love the Wolverine as well.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's
one of these.
I
think one of these days, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go through every single one of the X-Men films. That will have to be a series. I know that we're doing a director-themed series.
We all like the X-Men movies. We should probably do that. I didn't know.
Yeah, I love the X-Men film. One more thing I want to say about Batman Begins before we went on to the next film was there are a few moments in this film that reminded me of something that a friend of mine told me about what he wants Nolan to do next, and that is the horror genre. And
he wrote. He originally pitched Inception as a horror, I think.
Really?
I think there's something
I've
about
never
that.
heard
so
that before.
interesting seeing him try and do a horror. I wonder
Yeah.
if he'd fall flat on his face.
That
But
shit.
so Ben, that makes perfect sense for this movie explicitly. All those scenes with Scarecrow. How did you define
that scared the
CGI?
fuck out of me as a child
How
when he's like
scary.
gooey. That scared the
yeah.
shit
No.
out of
So
me.
Is that when Scarecrow
when
is
he's
looking
holding
at
him.
Batman?
Yeah.
Does it? Yeah. I think I remember seeing that when I was a child, and just thinking, what the hell am I watching? Because I think one of my friends said that the scariest part was when Rachel looks at the Scarecrow mask and sees all the worms. The scariest part for me was definitely when you see like the black sludge. And
Gooey
this whole,
Batman.
It's an interesting thing there. I think again with Nolan, he is in many cases with small little ideas that could have the potential to be very creative without a ceiling on them. I'm fairly sure Falcone looks at Scarecrow after being gassed and sees maggots, and then Batman after being gassed by Scarecrow sees maggots, and then Rachel sees maggots. Like, why is it not personalized? Like, it's very strange that all of these fears is just maggots. So
I
is
thought
it like
Batman
a gas
saw
that
bats coming out of his mouth. Or did he see maggots as well?
There are bats, but they're also maggots, I think.
I don't remember that, but
I think actually now I don't know.
I agree.
But I remember seeing maggots from two different people after having been subject to the weaponized gas.
I found it pretty funny when that he's in the crowd of people at the end, and they see his like eyes and mouth as like red beams of light.
Yeah,
try to fuck him up. I found that funny, but like in a cool way.
They do a good bit of comedy with that as well. So because he's walking around with the, I think a voice changer and a microphone, and then that gets zapped by Batman or something, and then he's like, "Oh no, I'm so scared," something like that.
I love it when Scarecrow goes into the room with Carmine Falcone. And he says, "Dr. Crane, I just can't help it anymore. The walls are closing in, blah, blah, blah." He's basically
we're 3 for 3 on Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I've seen Cillian Murphy more than I need to.
Best bit of all of them, arguably.
He is fantastic.
He's not the best bit of this film, to be fair, but he is good.
He is such a good face.
Does anyone else find his eyes a bit like
scary?
Psycho, yeah.
Yeah.
I found it in Oppenheimer. I was like, this guy doesn't have a soul. He's got scary looking eyes, but they're also very like nice, big blues.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's your take on this? Do you think he's handsome or not? Because I think he's handsome.
Yes.
He's a freaky looking guy. Nah, it's somewhere in the middle.
Nah, I think he's definitely a handsome man, but he looks weird. If you saw him in the flesh, you'd think that's a crackhead.
But is he? But is he Benedict Cumberbatch weird looking?
Yeah, same vibe. 100%.
No, I think Benedict Cumberbatch looks weirder.
I think he's uglier, but it's the same type of weird. Maybe like Matt Smith as well. That type of weird looking bloke.
I think Jeremy Allen White, Matt Smith, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Jeremy Allen White, that's good.
Weird looking, good facial structure,
ugly
white
hot.
People face. Yeah,
ugly.
Sure.
It's true. There's something about it.
Guys, we're being so shallow. It's not about what's on the outside of Cillian Murphy. It's
what you do that defines you.
It's exactly. It's what Cillian Murphy does that defines him, and he loves making Nolan movies. And well,
he does.
Ask me,
he does.
That's a good definition.
Oh, I did want to bring this up. I know it's been done to death. They're like, kill this man. He's like, no, but I'll kill you all instead. He kills everyone except from Liam Neeson, and it is murder.
In self-defense, though.
No. He blows up a house full of people.
Wait, who? Batman?
Batman. They're like, kill the farmer. He's like, no, I don't kill. And then he throws a fiery stick onto a bunch of gunpowder and blows everyone up.
No. They're ninjas. They probably escaped.
Well,
yeah, didn't
Ken Watanabe didn't.
Oh yeah, no, he did.
You see so many shots of them. Like, I'm gonna put it in the episode. You see so many shots of them fucking blowing up. It's undeniable. At least I'm gonna go. At least 3 people died. At least.
I think with Batman's code, and it is an important part of his character, as per Cosmonaut Variety Hour. To be honest, I don't read Batman comic books. I just don't.
I've read some.
People, it is a very big part of his character to ensure that he doesn't kill because he understands the value of life and what taking life can do to someone. Blah blah blah.
The walls are closing in. Blah blah blah.
The walls are closing in. Blah blah blah. Get me out of here.
I'm walking.
But I think with there being this constant nitpick with all of these Batman movies of, oh, I'm fairly sure you killed him, didn't you, Batman? It's like, it's Batman. Like, it's a Batman movie. His name is Batman.
Normally, I don't mind, but that
and he's got
he
ears,
says, I'm not going to kill.
He talks like this, and he's so angry and so repressed, and my mom died. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's not something I can ever take truly seriously, to the point where I would take to Twitter because of how angry I was that Batman...
I don't care that Batman kills in Batman v Superman, but he says...
He also kills in
I
Michael Keaton's Batman.
Yeah, I haven't seen them. But yeah, he does. I've seen the videos of him murdering in that. But in this one, he's like, no, I'm not going to kill, and then kills 10 seconds later. So I find that a bit annoying. I'm fine with him killing Liam Neeson at the end. That's fine, because he doesn't kill him. That's fine on a technicality. But he does... Blowing up a house is murder, is it not? If I blow up your house, am I a murderer? I didn't directly kill
my house and let me for
I think the idea...
yeah,
I think what you say is...
Fucking, he pulled off a fucking bone-breaking stunt to save him. When that shit was happening, when he was hanging off the cliff, I was like, fucking hell, I can feel
there is
that.
absolutely no way that with one bicep you can pull up that amount of weight. I guess if you want to, think about
it wasn't with a bicep. He was using his pecs a little bit.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Oh, true.
And like he's like sort of like pivoting as well.
A bit of his back, yeah.
But I'm just thinking, there's no way that someone of Christian Bale's size, and all due respect, he is in good shape in the film, but I just can't see how someone of that size could pull that.
Well, Captain America
because Liam
held
Neeson's what, 6'2"?
Hey Ben, it's called Batman.
Yeah.
He flies around in a cape. He takes on armies. He drives a tank around New York. It doesn't. I just don't think. I must say though, when he jumps down that ski slope to rescue Qui-Gon Jinn, and then like you were saying, and then he's hanging off, you can really feel that. I don't know how how Nolan did it.
Good performance from Bale.
Well. Yeah. I would say so. Yeah, it's a good scene.
Yeah, great movie.
And then he delivers Qui-Gon Jinn to this shaman somewhere in Nepal, and then the shaman's like, "I will tell him you saved his life." And
6 months later,
Bruce would be like, "Don't tell him, don't tell him anything. Don't tell him I was here at all. Tell him I went that way. If you're gonna tell him anything, tell him I went to London and I live there now. Don't tell this guy shit."
Anything else to say about Batman Begins before we move on to whichever one of the two?
To be honest, I feel like I could go on about Batman Begin. I just want to say a couple of things. I much prefer Maggie Gyllenhaal. Is it Maggie?
I was going to say the opposite.
Yeah, same. I
like Katie Holmes.
Yeah,
I think she's good.
That's a bad take. She is a bad actress in Batman Begin.
She's.
I prefer Katie Holmes. Maybe it's because she's the original, but
I'll give it.
Maggie Gyllenhaal is like she's such a character. You feel a person when she's Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
on
maybe.
Screen. I just don't feel a thing when what's her name?
Katie Holmes.
I really don't.
But I thought you said that when she dies in The Dark Knight, you don't feel anything.
I still don't.
It wasn't so much
anything,
because of
no.
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
But still, Maggie Gyllenhaal herself, like I think she's just a good actress. She's capable of, I don't know, eliciting a lot of character traits without her dialogue or something. I don't know what I'm saying really. She gives. She's a more
embodied
richer,
performance.
Yeah,
like her mannerisms.
Richer embodied performance from Maggie Gyllenhaal playing Rachel in the later.
So first performed, Paul Schrader, written and directed. It's about a priest who is sad about global warming. What everyone think of this movie, and do you understand why I picked it? Because I didn't say why.
Yeah. I think I get it.
I'd like to hear both your interpretations on why I picked it.
I think
so. Can I give my two interpretations? Well, no. my interpretation first, because you've mentioned two things that it has in parallel with Batman Begins.
Yes.
And the first one, which I think is definitely the non-major one, but is like a happy coincidence, the mention of the Underground Railroad in both of them. Yeah.
Yes, both of them are like, yeah, we helped the slaves, guys.
yeah. I thought that was a pretty funny parallel. As I was watching Batman Begins, that's what that meant.
That one jumped at me as well.
Yeah. So mentioning the Underground Railroad, but the major parallel, is it because both Ethan Hawke and Bruce Wayne are motivated by guilt? Bruce Wayne is mainly motivated by vengeance, but it is partially guilt.
It's definitely strongly guilt. Not consciously, but yeah, that is another parallel.
Okay.
I'll read my sentence after. Haroon, yeah, what's your interpretation?
The city of Gotham is going to shit, and Christian Bale realizes that and feels like he needs to act and do something enormous and outrageous and arguably reckless in order to try and do his best to stop the chaos in Gotham. As Ethan Hawke, I suppose, learns that the world itself may be coming to an end due to mankind's continual pollution and destruction of the environment, and feels as though he himself needs to do something about this and to have some sort of impact, whether that be on the streets marching or blowing up a church with a suicide bomb.
Yeah, pretty much.
No. So that's basically what I thought that was the fundamental parallel, right?
Yeah, so what I wrote was both films contemplate violence as a means for a just cause.
Oh, that's perfect, isn't it?
To varying degrees and varying critiques as well. Yeah, so what do you guys both think of First Reformed?
So to begin with, I was really intrigued. I like the look of it, like the 4:3 frame. Don't always like for films, but it's one of the things I do like about Robert Eggers. And I think it definitely fits this film. I also really like the static shots. I think that combined with the 4:3 frame was just really nice to look at. And it was not very colourful at all. A lot of it was very... I think colour-wise, it was very desaturated. And I generally like that. And I liked the fact that the person that Ethan Hawke's character is talking to and trying to advise. I like the fact that is that what he's called? Mike, the guy who ends up with Mike. Yeah. I like the fact that they did a good job at showing the effects of ideas and the fact that people don't just hold political ideas, in the sort of abstract sense, and it only comes to their mind when they go to election day. It is something that actually can affect their day-to-day lives.
I was going to say this could have been a comparison for Inception in terms of like ideas as a parasite, which is said in Inception.
Yeah, no, that definitely could have been another parallel. And I really like that fact that they were going. Well, I thought they were going to go deep into that sort of area, and I guess they do continue to after the suicide, because then Ethan Hawke's character himself starts to get really paranoid about the environment and environmental damage and whatnot. But I think the film, unfortunately, it lost my attention about halfway through. I think it did lose me a little bit, and I can't put my finger quite on what it was. Maybe it's because I thought Ethan Hawke was behaving in a way that I just found annoying. And I did find the ending a bit strange as well, because I think the ending would have been a lot more appropriate if what he did was when he went to that factory, and he goes to the bulk industries factory for the tour. I think the ending would have been a lot more appropriate if he went in there with the suicide vest. But I just find it quite strange that he chose to wear the suicide vest when he was in the congregation. Because yes, the industrialist was there who he didn't like, but I thought the fact that he would have killed his congregation members.
Well, but they're taking the money from the people destroying the planet, so I think he's he has a problem with that as well. The mega church.
Yeah,
Basically,
but I think it's the fact that he's okay with killing the congregation members who would be in a similar situation to the I've forgotten her name, but the wife of Mike, because he insists that she doesn't come because he doesn't want to kill her, but he seems to be okay with killing the other congregation members. I thought that was really out of character.
She's in Mean Girls.
And she's in
No
Mamma
one
Mia as well.
goes-
That's where I recognise her from.
she's in Ted 2.
Is she?
Amanda Seafood. I'm gonna find out her name. But it's said no one goes to that church that he's at. He has like 4 people who attend, so he doesn't know any of them. It's all like political, like it's all just people like higher ups from the church, the mega church that's nearby. And he tells the other woman to not come.
But there
as
are
well.
some people that he knows there. I mean, it's a very small number of them. But I find it surprising that he'd be willing to kill those people who I assume, like him, were just completely unaware of the involvement of the industrialist. And again, like I think what's so strange is that he was literally in the factory, and before it's even confirmed that he's there, I was thinking, oh, this is the ending of the film.
But the factory doesn't do anything though politically. Like it will just be like the company will put out a statement being like, "Oh, rest in peace to our workers, this evil person." But like going for the head of the company is way more of a statement, and the head of the church, it's way more of a statement. I get, obviously, I'm not fucking endorsing terrorism, but I get that would be the statement you'd make rather than just the workers of the country. And also, yeah, it's going to be minimum wage workers. It's not going to be the true root cause of the problem. Nor would killing the CEO, but it would be more of a point to make than killing just people who are showing up for a paycheck.
But do you not think it would have been a more impactful ending if, let's say, Ethan Hawke went up to the CEO and said, "Look, I was going to say maybe go up to him and say, I'm sorry, can you give me a tour around your factory so I know the sort of valuable work you do?" But then he'd be lying, and I can't see him lying either. So yeah, but I think it would have made more sense if he would have met the CEO with the suicide vest on, and it would have ended with maybe not showing that the suicide vest being detonated, but it being heavily implied that he did. But I didn't think he'd do it at the church, especially when there were other people around who I think by Ethan Hawke's standards were not bad people, were good people. Because as much as he doesn't like Esther, I doubt he'd want to kill her. Although obviously,
yeah, I think that I think when he tells her to fuck off, that is out of liking her and not wanting her to come and die at his planned suicide bombing. So I don't think he
didn't
does
even think
dislike
of it that
her.
way, actually.
Yeah, because it is a bit out of the blue when he's like, "I hate you, fuck off, don't come."
Yeah, I mean, I think he literally says, "I fucking disdain you." It's something, pretty unequivocal like that.
Yeah, but I think it was for the same reason. But I mean, there probably is more resentment there than with Amanda Seafood. But anyway, we need to hear from Haroon. What did you think of it, Haroon?
I thought it was pretty good. I quite liked it. I thought it was.
I'm pretty sure you told me it was one of the best films you've ever seen yesterday.
I'm getting.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Just hearing you say it was pretty good. I was like,
I thought it was shot really well. I thought the acting was fantastic, and I think it's an incredibly thematically complex movie. To be honest, I think there's quite a lot that goes on with the guilt of his having lost his son. And then, so Michael is that the environmentalist that he meets at the beginning? Is his name Michael? Yeah. So he is very much compelled to prevent Michael from doing anything stupid, and probably feel some sort of fatherly attachment to Michael.
Probably his kid's age by now.
Yeah, exactly. So he'd already lost one son and just doesn't want to lose another. And so it's quite it's pretty intense. And then he does. And so the movie sort of transitions from this really deep guilt into themes of despair, and how despair is endless, or whatever he says in the movie. I can't remember what the exact line is. But yeah, it's just like it's a very deep movie. I thought. I do think it's one of the best movies I've seen. It's just I will definitely give that another watch.
As in, not just the best movies you've seen this year, but like ever, all time.
Yeah, I would probably say one of the best movies I've seen. Yeah, like of all movies. Just like for those incredibly complicated themes, which I think, like you did mention something, Ben, and I do agree with that. Halfway through the movie, things sort of do start switching, and they do away with some of the more heavier parts of the film, and I don't know. I think the environment part of the movie, the environmentalist part of the movie, which is supposed to be like the big driver, it feels like anything could have been substituted in for that, which maybe would take away for me a lot of things about it, and maybe would take it from being like one of the top movies, which is why I didn't actually start off by saying it's one of the best films I've ever seen. But then I did say that, but now I'm taking that back.
So just to chew on that for a little bit. So let's say instead of environmentalism, let's say
it could have been anything.
The guy was really anti-drugs, and he was saying, "Look what's happening to all the kids of today's generations." They're
and then you could target a pharma company.
Or just dealers in general. But yeah,
well, that doesn't work so much with the religious themes of like God's creation and believing fundamentally that we should protect God's earth. Well, I guess it does because
it absolutely is God's the exact same thing.
But either way, I don't think that would detract from it, because it's still.
I think if anything, it adds to it because it means that there's a more abstract message.
We're critiquing a hypothetical scenario where the film is different, which will never exist and has never existed.
But it's just a possible improvement that could be made, right?
What that it's how?
Because
you're saying you're saying it takes away from it, so it's not an improvement.
The environmentalist politics of which the movie plays on, in order, I don't know, it felt like ham-fisted in, like Ben said, slightly, very slightly.
I didn't think it felt contrived, in the sense that it was only environmentalism that it could have been about. So I thought it could have been about other things. Although I think it did. I do remember thinking, "Oh, this feels a bit forced" when Ethan Hawke is talking to the CEO of what's it called, Abundant Life, and he starts explicitly spelling out things like, "Oh, who serves our interests?" I think he says that we know that big business has lobbied.
You did. You've been doing a lot of sexual euphemisms today, Ben.
Hello, welcome back.
Maybe it's on purpose.
I've moved. My Wi-Fi or computer broke, and I'm in a different room. We were midway through a sentence, and I don't remember what we were saying. Haroon was saying something about the First Reformed.
Okay.
Blah,
I'm gonna have to. Blah blah blah. Basically, I don't think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I thought, I was telling Ben whilst you were gone, I did think that the cinematography was really nice, the acting was fantastic, and it felt like a spiritual journey. It was what Paul Schrader had described as transcendental film, and I think it definitely does have like that sort of effect. It's definitely a very cool spiritual journey, sure, but there are lots of things that happen in the movie that I didn't like, and also, generally speaking, aside from it being, it is very like rich thematically speaking, but I don't know, I just didn't really love it. I think there's just something more that needs to be present for it to be something that I would give a 10 out of 10 or even a 9 out of 10. I'd possibly give it an 8, so 4 stars, but that could be also a 7.5. I don't really know. I didn't love it though, for sure.
Are there any particular scenes that come to mind that explain why you didn't
the
like
magical mystery tour scene is a stupid piece of nothing, and
I loved that. No, it's great.
Of course you did.
Nothing.
Of course you did. Of course you loved that.
It's definitely something.
Low quality CGI that takes you out of the movie completely.
I think CGI itself
it's
is
not
pretty
trying
good,
to be
actually.
convincing.
They hadn't keyed out the green screen properly.
Yeah, they had.
It was clearly like very low budget, bad idea.
I don't think it was on green screen.
They could have done.
I was actually
really
I think that's probably why you thought it looked bad, because they probably had to trace around them. Because it was all one shot in it going from the room. They probably did it in the room.
Bad.
It's not really meant to look like they're actually flying though.
Okay.
I would suggest.
I thought it looked good when they were floating. Okay. I didn't think.
Yeah, the floating looked good.
The floating was fine. I was fine with the floating, but I don't understand
when they go through the jungles and the mountains and then the trash and then the
corny,
I liked
cheesy nonsense, man. Why did you like
it? Because it's sort of the moment in the film. He's torn between human connection and initially God, and then his environmental struggle later sort of replaces that. And it's the moment where he is the closest he's been to the physical touch of another person. It's a very intimate moment. She described it as a moment of like how she found her love with her boyfriend or whatever, husband. I don't remember. And they're doing that, and it's working for him, and he's almost there. But the obsession and idea of the planet dying and this whole Mike thing just creeps back in, and it turns ugly, and it's very obvious. Obviously, he's flying through pretty Earth and then ugly Earth, but it just worked really well for me as like a character.
How? Why? Like, you're not really explaining why.
How else? I liked it. I explained what it means, and I like that. And I don't mind that it looks like they've keyed the background out and there's a fucking forest there. Because it's not trying to be Superman flying through the sky. It's metaphorical. It's not really happening.
Sure. On the point of him finally being close with somebody, physically at least, and arguably mentally too, I think they do form quite a close bond. Ethan Hawke and Mean Girl, and they're flying through the air, and it's beautiful and it's heavenly, and then it to me, I guess it just goes from that heavenly beauty, and then it's like, oh, but climate change, oh
yeah, because he's obsessed with it.
Yeah, okay.
And it's sort of the point, I think, where it's sort of the road where he could go one way or the other, and his mind sends him the other, and that's when he's committed to doing his terrorism/suicide that he does at the end.
It's a big risk to pull in the movie, and I just don't think the risk pays off. I think it just doesn't fly, ironically enough.
You should write that down.
Yeah. How did you feel about the magical mystery tour scene, Ben?
So I think the problem that I had with it was it didn't end the way that I thought it should have done, because I liked the kind of connection that the two of them, Ethan Hawke's character and what do you call it? I think you called it Mean Girl.
Mean Girl.
Her name's Mary.
Mary.
Yeah.
And
Ethan Hawke's son was Joseph. So
yeah, so I'm sure there's definitely something there. And I think the problem I have
is a religious movie
I think
with the names Mary and Joseph, so there probably is something there.
I was joking, brother.
But I think that scene would have been better if it ended with the two of them either like kissing each other or actually sleeping with each other.
I was so scared they were going to kiss. I was like, please don't fucking kiss.
You didn't want them to?
No, I didn't want them to. I felt bad for dead Mike.
Must have loved that ending.
Yeah. I remembered that. In my head, he did the terrorism from my first viewing. That's what I had remembered it was. So I was like, oh.
Yeah, actually.
Because I watched it a few years ago.
So when did you... Yeah, when and how did you first come across this film? Was it part of your degree or...
No, I watched it around then. I probably watched it in like 2019, 2020. It would have been 2020. I just heard about it, and I'd heard it was good. I hadn't seen Taxi Driver. I didn't know who Paul Schrader was. I just watched it, man. I was just like, oh, this is cool. I didn't love it on first viewing. I liked it a lot. But I was just like, yeah, this is cool. And watching it this time, I liked it. I wouldn't say significantly more, but yeah, it worked a lot more for me, especially knowing what happens and going in thinking about the themes of violence and like what causes someone to go to these places. But yeah.
I think, would you then... This is probably the first example of the time in this podcast where I would say that the Nolan movie was quite a bit better than the other movie.
But
So,
what about the
Matt,
other movie?
Would you prefer Batman Begins to First Reformed?
It's more watchable than First Reformed, but no, I've got First Reformed rated higher, slightly.
Fair enough. What about you, Ben?
Well, we know that
Begins.
answer.
Yeah, Batman Begins definitely is rated more highly for me.
I would probably say so too.
But I thought First Reformed had a really solid start, like a really... Yeah, I was really hooked in the first half. I just thought it lost its way a little bit.
Yeah.
Put it this way, I think the order in which we're doing the films this week is going in the same order as my ranking from best to worst. Because we'll be moving on to Taxi Driver unless anybody else
should we do
has
Taxi
anything else
Driver?
to-
Yeah, let's do
It's getting late.
Let's do it.
So, Matt, I think you're the one who initiated that we do Taxi Driver on top of First Reformed. So, give us an intro for Taxi
Yes.
Driver.
I guess it's more of a straight. He does a vigilante thing, I guess. So that's probably why I picked it. I did want to do First Reformed because I thought it'd be a more interesting conversation, but I was like, might as well do both. Sorry, someone just knocked on my door. So I thought might as well do both, and I'd only seen Taxi Driver once. It's the same writer as First Reformed, similar-ish themes. It's about a sick man with sick thoughts, and people like him should die. Sorry. Yeah.
Schrader or Bickle?
Bickle. Yeah, Travis Bickle. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. Should I do a plot summary? A man who doesn't sleep goes crazy and wants to hurt people and chooses, I guess, a good target to do it. Yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts.
So, Taxi Driver. I first watched this film in either 2019 or 2020. Anyway, been quite a few years since I'd seen it. And the first time I watched it, I remember thinking, I honestly have no idea why this film gets the praise it does. It really didn't amaze me in any way. And watched it for only the second time this evening. And honestly, I think the thoughts pretty much remain unchanged despite all those years. And during those years, I've definitely become a lot more competent about film.
How you have thought this.
Yes, I do want to get into the reasons for why this is regarded as a masterpiece. But what I wanted to say first was, Haroon, you've mentioned to me before that the king of comedy has a lot of parallels with Joker. I definitely saw some parallels between Taxi Driver and Joker.
Oh, yeah. It's
that's
combined the two movies and put a DC brand on it.
And I didn't realise just
Have you seen King of Comedy?
But I have not. I have seen Joker, I think, a couple of times now. But yeah, this time watching Taxi Driver, I definitely saw what people meant when they said that Joker is heavily inspired from it. And it was really strange because I think a lot of people point towards the decay that you see in New York, which is a pretty obvious one. But there are even small things, like just the general mannerisms of Robert De Niro's Travis Bickle. Like, he walks very much like Joaquin Phoenix does in some scenes. And also, you know, when he's getting the job, applying for the job in the taxi rank, there's something about the way he angled his head and the smile when he tries to make a joke, and the joke doesn't come across that well at all. That reminded me immediately of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, like just the smile in particular. And the fact that he's so skeletal, and when you see him with his shirt off, it just reminds me a lot of Joaquin Phoenix again.
It's a rip-off, blatantly. It's the plot of King of Comedy with the vibe of Taxi Driver, and also the violence of Taxi Driver, I guess, because he's not that violent in King of Comedy. I prefer King of Comedy, personally, but I think they're both fucking perfect. Haroon, what do you think of Taxi Driver?
I think it's a masterpiece.
It's fucking
10 out of
great.
10 incredible masterpiece.
Yeah.
I think everything about this movie is perfect.
Yeah,
it's strange, Ben. I don't understand what you didn't get from
what
it.
do you dislike?
I was just really bored. was just really, really bored. And it was only in the final. It's only once you get to the final third when he meets or sees Iris for the third time and then actually does something about it that I thought the film actually finally kicks into gear. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's actually got a purpose. And I get that the whole idea of the film is that he's lacking purpose and he's driving around and he's really, really lonely. And what I will say is that
did you pick up on him being a racist?
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, this was something that I wanted to ask you both about because I think what I found so strange about it is so I don't know who it was an interview with, whether it was with Paul Schrader or Martin Scorsese. I think it was with Scorsese, and it was a short. So for all I know, it was edited and spliced in such a way that is not representative of what Martin Scorsese actually thinks about Travis Bickle. That could well be the case, but just from the short that I watched, I got the impression that Martin Scorsese has a lot of sympathy for the likes of Travis Bickle.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Yeah, and I thought it was just a bit strange considering that. I mean, I can understand if he paints him as this guy who, you know, is lonely and he's a genuinely nice guy.
Incel.
Well, yeah, so that was the honestly the word that came to my mind, like incel.
Yeah, he's an incel. Before it's cool.
Yeah, because he goes to the porno theaters and he's saying he's struggling to sleep and think, okay.
Him interacting with Betsy as well is some of the most fucking
and
freakish shit ever. I don't like your coworker.
Yeah, because and I think what was so strange about it was he goes into the office, he's wearing the suit, he goes in there really, really confidently. I thought, oh, okay, this guy's actually got like a really confident streak to him, and I think like healthy confidence because, you know, he goes up to her.
But he stares at her for like days before.
No. Okay, that part is strange. But when he actually goes into the office, like, and Betsy really likes it, I think, okay, this is okay.
There's like
and
a moment
on
of
their
charisma.
date, and the first thing he says is, "I don't like a coworker," or, you know, maybe it's not the first thing he says, but
yeah,
he just gives her compliments and says he doesn't like a coworker. And I will say, like, her coworker is like king simp. Like, he's just there the entire time, like just spying on this other guy.
He's the
like,
office hubby. Yeah, when he peers around the corner, it's so funny.
That's even, I did find that part really funny. So I think in terms of the parts of the film that I did like, I did find that scene in the office hilarious because you just see this guy sort of pipping his head, like you see him in the background, like he's got the thing of papers that he's meant to be filing, and he's not actually filing, he's just looking straight ahead. So I think those sorts of things were pretty funny. But yeah, it's revealed more and more that he's an incel, and then obviously they're at the not taxi rank, but they're at that cafe or diner where all the taxi drivers go, which apparently is actually a real place where actual taxi drivers used to go to when they were filming it. I was reading about afterwards, and yeah, you see him interacting with the white guys, and then what's the other guy?
And the black guy says something.
Yeah, so he's revealed to be an incel. He's revealed to be a racist as well, and then he goes down like a completely like full-on nihilistic route because he wants to kill the
it's there the whole time
presidential hopeful, as in his nihilism.
Yeah, it obviously gets worse, but that's the whole movie. Is it getting worse? So it starts with he can't sleep, wants a night job, drinks a lot, is lonely. Then it becomes he's having to clean cum off his seats every night. Cum and blood, he says.
That was pretty funny.
He sees a lot of like prostitution and pimps, and then he starts to hate black people. And then he meets Martin Scorsese. Oh, then he's offered a gun by his co-worker, and he turns it down. And then he meets Martin Scorsese, who's a racist as well, a racist cuck, who's like, "I've got this big pistol. You should see what it does." He's already misogynistic. We know from him staring at the woman and then being like, don't talk to your co-worker anymore and come to this porn theater with me.
Yeah, that what the fuck?
And then he goes and buys the same gun. Like,
yeah, the part of the theater was what I found so strange, and it wasn't. The part that I found most shocking about that, it wasn't the fact that he went to the theater, although that was pretty shocking. It was the fact that when she was leaving, he was like, whoa, what are you leaving for? What are you leaving for? Like, what planet are you on?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to do that, and then one thing to just not
But I think that highlights his misogyny because he doesn't understand that that's a quite offensive thing to do and not the vibe you want on a fucking first date. But he does just see women as an object of like sex, basically. And I think that even comes...
and yeah, I guess now that you mentioned that, Betsy did say that's as interesting.
Yeah, you might as well have said let's fuck or something like that.
Yeah, and they would be just as interesting. Yeah.
He's a ticking time bomb of wanting to commit violence. And Haroon, you haven't said anything in a while.
Yeah, I was just
sorry,
letting discourse.
Okay, I can talk more with you, but I thought you had something to say.
I did have something, but it's sort of a little separate. So just finish your point and then.
Okay. Yeah. He's just a ticking time bomb of violence. I think he basically just by chance lands on the right thing by the end of it, because he's been looking at this girl all the whole movie, basically seeing Iris. And again, it's just like staring at her. And then he talks to her, finds out she's 12, finds out she's a prostitute. And he comes up with some savior fantasy where he's going to save the little white girl. And it's obviously the right thing to want to do, but it stems from his misogyny and the desire that he has to be a savior of women, basically.
Okay, so on that topic of being a savior, and this also probably comes a lot from Ben, you mentioned that it seems as though that Scorsese has quite a lot of sympathy for Travis Bickle. I'm pretty sure that he came back from the Vietnam War and he's just trying to get back on his feet after that and find his place in society after having been shaped by a really brutal war, basically. And it's screwed him up completely. And I think that's where the sympathy comes from, and I think that's where the savior complex comes from as well.
Yeah.
So I should have given more context as well. So he said, well, yes, I don't explicitly remember him saying that he felt sympathy for people like Travis Bickle, but I think what was strange about the interview, which made me think that he does, was because I think at the end of the interview he said, "Oh, it's very sad because I think many people today are in the same situation as Travis Bickle."
He says every other person's like Travis Bickle now.
We kept thinking in terms of the character and his loneliness and his acting out. Not condoning the acting out, but he does act out. And yet an empathy with him, which is really tricky. Ultimately, what stayed with us was the psychological and emotional state of that character. As we know now, tragically, it's a norm. Every other person is like Travis Bickle now.
It was pretty much what he was saying.
There's a level of sympathy within reason, because I don't know if you guys have ever lived alone. For long periods of time, it drives you fucking crazy. We probably all remember from the pandemic. It does drive you absolutely fucking mental.
I was all good.
I was going to say, I think if you live alone and you have no human contact, yeah, that can drive.
Or like the only human contact you have is not very nice. Being in a bad environment where, I don't know, it does drive you a bit fucking crazy, and it just takes it to the logical extreme. I was gonna say about the violence and how he lands on the right people, basically, because so he goes about midway through and he talks to his mate at work and he's like, I think I'm gonna do something bad or something, and his mate just sort of like brushes it off. And then all the Betsy stuff happens and the Iris stuff happens. He has the gun. He's met Iris. He's met what was his name? What's Harvey Keitel called?
Oh, Sport or Matthew.
Sport. I wanted to say Speed. Sport. He's met Sport. He has the gun, but he still goes to kill the political guy first because he's obsessed with Betsy. We know he's not a political guy. He says it 5 times throughout the film. Doesn't know anything about it. Has no reason to want to kill this guy. But that's where he goes first. And only when that's foiled is when he goes and kills the pedophiles. So he just wants to hurt people. And it just sort of happened to land on a sort of righteous thing. But he does it for his own selfish reasons and traumatizes Iris by murdering people in front of her. All for his own gain, basically. And his own self-satisfaction.
So, I think when it comes to this film being a masterpiece, the one thing that I keep hearing people talk about is the fact that Scorsese had I think a lot of conflict with the studio producers, distributors,
Yeah.
whichever body was relevant to distributing the film. And I think there seemed to be sort of urban myths surrounding what his plans were, because apparently, I think it was the night before he was meant to meet with them.
Yeah.
He was he had a he had a gun.
Yeah, he was going to
he was
kill
drinking.
them.
Yeah, and then I think
He's a big
somebody would
cokehead in
say-
this era as well.
Oh, was he?
Massive, massive, massive.
Oh, see, I knew Paul Schrader was a massive cokehead, so I think you were saying.
Oh, really?
he
I didn't
was
know that.
either- Yeah, I thought Paul Schrader did a lot of drugs. I think he was saying, "Oh yeah, that's how he did all the work, man." But I think Scorcesse, yeah, he had a gun with him. He was drinking heavily that night, and some people argue that he was planning on killing himself, or he was planning on actually going into the meeting and threatening to kill the guy unless he included all the really graphic scenes. Which I
Yeah.
find so funny, because you watch it now and you think this wouldn't
It's not
get an
that
18.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this would probably get 15 max.
It probably would
Um,
get an 18. It's kind of disturbing, but it's a different way. There is only one scene of violence. That hand shot's pretty cool.
I think 15 though. Yeah, I thought the hand shot was pretty good, but I thought one thing that was very strange about that whole fight scene was the fact that the guy whose hand he shot off, he didn't finish him off until way later. And the guy
Yeah,
kept saying,
I don't
"I'm
know
going to kill
why.
you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you." And think, sorry, you just had your hand shot off. Are you really going to die for a brothel? Like, are
Yeah.
you really going to do that? And I thought that was something that I thought was really strange. And then there was a really long slow-mo sequence afterwards when it goes from the room down the stairs into the streets, showing the cop cars. And yeah, I don't know why they did that, but I should say that those two things aren't the two reasons why I dislike the film. Just two little critical cherries on top. But yeah, I thought the reason why I didn't like the film so much is because I just found those first 2/3 very boring, personally.
I think
I loved it
maybe
all.
the film just failed to immerse you. I think maybe you need to allow yourself to be immersed a bit. Your criticisms of recent movies that we've shown you that have received wide critic acclaim, that I also thoroughly enjoy, and they're just good films for the reasons that films can be good. You've not liked for the same reasons that I think you lack patience when it comes to movies.
Like patience.
Yeah, I think you do. I think if your favourite movies are Christopher Nolan movies and Taxi Driver is too slow for you, I think it's possible that you might have a slight lack of patience when it comes to just letting things happen and just really letting yourself go into a movie.
But I don't think... I get why you think that from the films we've done, but I'm thinking of films that are slow burners, like Bones and All. Like, that's a slow burner. That's got a lot of...
You love that.
I love Bones and All. I don't know why I love Bones and All so much, but I do
Fair.
seriously like that film.
Is that the one where Timothée Chalamet eats people?
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one.
That's not
got a-
necessarily slow movie, is it?
I wouldn't say it's.
That's a Luca Guadagnino movie. That's deftly not a slow movie.
I wouldn't call that slow.
No,
It's
no,
not
they
a
can
slow
be long.
film.
I think they're long and meandering, in the sense that there's no, if you like, tight plot that they're following. Like, there can be quite a lot of filler in there, and yeah, I really like that film. And it's funny because I like that film despite the fact that I also was conscious of the fact that it dragged.
What other movies would you say that are slow? I haven't actually seen Bones and All, but what other movies would you say are slow?
Slow films. Don't know. Hit me with names.
First
Come and
Reformed.
see.
What was the one you said, Matt?
First Reformed. Let me.
You don't like The Godfather because it was too slow.
Oh, The Godfather is insanely boring. Oh my god.
Exactly,
That's
boring and slow.
fantastic.
Right.
Well, boring, slow. I think
2001 as well.
Serious...
2001.
2001, boring and slow.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I just remember thinking it was weird. I wouldn't say
Okay.
boring and slow, just weird.
Okay.
Other films that you can think of.
Like not Reservoir Dogs. That's probably
No.
fine for you.
Blade Runner 2049, Blade Runner 1. That's a slow fucking movie. Blade Runner 1. David Batty once said is the most cool, boring movie ever.
Where you think it's boring and cool? Blade Runner 1.
Yeah, it's sick. It's fucking amazing, but it's a slow fucking movie. Nothing happens in it.
I think the first Blade Runner film I thought was okay. I love Blade Runner 2049.
Enemy is slow. Enemy is slow.
I loved Enemy the first time I saw it. When I see it on subsequent viewings, I like it less and less.
Damn.
That's fine.
Anyway, this film isn't slow.
Yeah, Taxi Driver's not a slow movie.
I get what you mean about me lacking patience with films. I think with me, if I'm watching a film, especially the first time, or the first time in a long time, my thought process is, what do I think of this film? Like, am I enjoying it? Am I not? What's the reason for it? And that's before I try and look at, say, the meaning of the film and whatnot. Although I think the two things can be related, like the answers that you get to both questions. I think the problem I had was that I didn't like the protagonist.
What setting did you watch Taxi Driver on?
What was that?
What setting do you watch Taxi Driver on? Like, did you watch it on your Mac? Like a Mac computer,
monitor.
phone? You watch it on your monitor?
Yeah, like right now.
Okay.
And the first time I watched it, I saw it on a flat screen TV. So I don't think it's a case of the way in which I watched the film. I should say that I don't necessarily think it's a bad film. I just don't understand why it's considered a masterpiece.
It's good to know you don't think Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, written by Paul Schrader.
Did you not find like the vibe intoxicating at all? Like the music and the shots from inside the cab of the beautiful lights and the rain.
Yeah, the intoxicating is the word.
It was a funny one because if I just listen to that music on its own, I picture a bar. Maybe I picture somebody at that bar alone, which I guess is what Travis Bickle is. But I don't picture like rotting streets, like civilization.
But there's the two themes, and one of them's beautiful, and one of them's like the drums and like the droning, like. And then by the end, I think literally the scene where he's going to kill everyone, those two themes are like played together. So
yeah, I didn't notice that.
Also, odd pairing with Batman Begins. This one. I don't feel anything.
Two fucking weird guys go do violence on criminals.
Violence on criminals by weird guys. I feel like I'd pick maybe 100 movies that have that vague premise.
Yeah, maybe falling down.
Matt just wanted to watch a Martin Scorsese movie. He wanted to watch Taxi Driver, and we did it.
Well,
it works.
So I want to ask something else about this. Do you
Vigilante.
Think this is...
One's a critique. One's a this is cool.
Do you think that this is Scorsese's best film? Because
no, Goodfellas
just on top of my head, I can think of other films where Scorsese that I think are better.
I think this is his best film.
Do you think it's better than Goodfellas?
I love Taxi Driver. I think.
Can you talk more about it then? Because you have not said much about it.
I think you really described it very well just then, and it definitely fits in my entire analysis and review of the movie into an incredibly intoxicating vibe, is what it does. The music, the actor, Robert De Niro is fantastic.
He's good. I forgot he's a good actor because he does the same thing a lot.
He does play
He's so good.
Incredible in this movie. And just the story is really good. How his like weird, fucked up, monstrous little life.
Did you see what he was eating? This is the only note I made. At one point, he has
of sugar.
He has a bowl of white bread covered in sugar in milk with a side of whiskey, which I think he also pours into the bowl.
Oh, nice.
There is one parallel that I noticed in these two films that hasn't been mentioned yet, and that's that both characters journal. Ethan Hawke, Travis Bickle. So is that something that Paul Schrader?
So I looked into. So I heard a thing from Paul Schrader, and I'm not sure if Matt sent this to me. Let me know if this sounds familiar.
I did.
But
probably.
What he does what Paul Schrader does is that he designs his characters as a metaphor for a moment in his life where he's experiencing quite a lot of suffering, and then he'll turn that into a metaphor, personify it into a character, and then write that character.
I don't think
I feel like that journaling, synonymous between those two movies, is definitely reflective of him writing down his sufferings.
He said he wrote it to like exercise his soul, like from all this negativity.
All of his writing is catharsis for himself, basically, but then he turns it into this amazing art.
So he actually, I think, some of the material he used, there were various other pieces of material. I think he used the diaries of somebody who actually successfully assassinated a presidential candidate.
I think I've heard this.
Yeah,
I think I know what you're talking about.
So he used that as one of the materials, but another thing he used, like you said, Haroon, was his own experience. And so when he and his girlfriend broke up, he, depending on which source you find, he either slept in his car for weeks or was squatting at her apartment for a few weeks while she was away. And during those times, he lacked a lot of human contact, and he was saying how horrible it was for him. He also suffered from insomnia, which meant that he went to various porno theaters, and there was something else as well. I can't
believe that.
I think when he got sacked.
Yeah.
What was that?
Porn in the cinema. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is so weird, isn't it?
That is unbelievable. That is all definitely real, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it used to be the case.
What a shocking thing to be.
Pee Wee Herman got arrested for masturbating in a porno theatre.
Well, I was just about to ask.
What are you supposed to do in there if you're not? Are you just watching?
You remember it and do it later.
You're getting ideas.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it is appalling. It really is. It's very funny. So who's Pee Wee Sherman? Who's that?
Pee Wee Herman. He's got a real name. He's just like he's America's Mr. Bean.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is very America's Mr. Bean. Yeah.
And also I think after he got sacked by the AFI, he worked as a delivery driver for.
Oh, really?
I think fast food. I think you were saying that because of how little human contact he had, he said he felt like he was a taxi driver. So yeah, just a number of different things that he himself has been through that he's used as inspiration, which I thought was interesting. And to be honest with you, I did actually find that to be the most interesting thing about both like the film and the analysis or research I did prior to this episode. Because I do remember thinking, oh, that's really interesting that he actually links the two of them.
Did you guys look into his like early life as well?
No, I didn't.
Well, he's from the Midwest,
cool.
isn't he?
I didn't know that, but I know he grew up very religious and like wasn't allowed to watch films, and so he hadn't really watched any films until he like left home, and I think he either went to school or he met some film critic, and so he got mentored and became a film critic for years and years and years. And I think this might be the first thing he wrote, or like one of the early things.
You mentioned religion, and I think Travis Bickle says to himself that he's God's
loneliest man or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that comes up in First Reformed as well.
Yeah, very
Does
much so.
religion crop up quite a lot in Paul Schrader films?
Well, he wrote The Last Temptation of Christ.
Oh, you wrote that as well? Oh, so
Yeah.
he and Scorcesse collaborated quite a lot then.
Yeah, he wrote Raging Bull as well, and Bringing Out the Dead, which is a Nick Cage Scorsese movie, which I haven't seen, and I'm desperate to watch because that will
never even
be
heard
the
of that
best
before.
thing I've ever seen.
I really want to watch it.
And that poster has a cross on it, so I'm guessing that might have something to do with religion. So
I know
yeah,
Scorsese
definitely.
does quite a few films involving religion.
Yeah. Have you seen Silence?
I watched like half of it. Yeah, I tell you what, we're talking about me lacking patience of films. I completely
that
lack
is a
patience
slow
for
one.
That film.
That is a slow one for sure.
Slow ass burner. Oh, Killers of the Flower Moon. That is a slow burner, and I loved that film.
I wouldn't say
can,
that's a slow burner. It's just long.
It's 3.5 hours long, isn't it?
Did you like The Shining?
I do not like The Shining, but the reason why I don't like The Shining is because I find it scary.
Oh, but it's not supposed to be a scary movie. It's supposed to be a thriller movie. So does it throw you?
It's technically a horror.
I think it's meant to be horror.
It's quite disturbing. I find it
thriller.
quite scary.
So hang on, Ben. That is such an interesting thing, really, for you to say. Like, because a movie is supposed to be a horror, and then it doesn't have horror elements, but it's also a very good movie in other aspects. But because it has the label of horror genre on it, and it didn't scare you, all of those aspects that make it an otherwise good movie don't work for it.
Well, I don't know if I'd necessarily agree that it's a good movie. I haven't seen it. No,
The Shining. Really.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying it's a good movie either. But what I will say is that
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying it's a good movie either. Bro.
Yeah,
The Shining.
I literally couldn't tell you anything about whether that film is good or bad. What I remember about that film when I watched it years ago was, oh yeah, let's watch The Shining. It's really scary. So I thought, yes, I love horror films when they actually scare me. Watched it.
When did you last watch it?
I was disappointed.
When did you last watch
A few
it?
years ago now. Probably 20.
So while you were an adult, fuck.
I watch The Shining a couple times a year at least.
It's fantastic. It's arguably the best horror movie ever made.
Love The Shining. It's absolutely adore that movie.
Can I read one quote actually about Taxi Driver? Because I did save this.
I have one thing to say about First Reformed after this. I just want to talk about First Reformed quickly. The ending, Ben, of First Reformed. So basically, when he's about to drink the bleach, there's arguments to be made that he drank the bleach and then he died, and then finally when the camera starts moving for the first time in the movie and you have these fantastical shots, that's life after death and he's with the person he loves. And also to support this too, when the other priest comes out of the church that supports the oil drilling and whatever it is, and he comes out and he tries to get into Ethan Hawke's house and the door is locked, but then Mean Girl comes in and she just is able to let herself in.
True.
Exactly. So
well, that does it for me. I had the interpretation because I can that it was a nice happy ending, but yeah, I guess it is. It can't be.
No,
but
he drank the bleach.
But I thought that when he
died.
drops the glass, the bleach spills. I thought.
Yeah, but
he's
happens,
dead by that point. Yeah, and that's
he
all
drinks
fake.
The bleach, and then everything from the glass smashing, he's dead.
I'm gonna still believe it's all a happy ending, but Paul Schrader said I can, so
it's
I'm
not a happy ending. Yeah, Paul Schrader did say you can if you want, but you're stupid if you do. No, he didn't.
He didn't. Anyway, I'm gonna read this quote about Taxi Driver. People have a tendency to think it's far more violent than it is, simply because the movie exists within the space of a man who's becoming increasingly schizophrenic and crazy, and it offers you no other view of life. And so that you begin to share his hostility to his prejudice, his racism, his sexism, and that is what's most terrifying to people. There is no sequence like at the end of Psycho where you pull back and say, this is why he's crazy. And then Martin Scorsese said, I think we felt complicitous in the film because we got so involved with him. We felt we were accomplices in his racism and his hostility and his anger and his murders. So yeah,
you see,
there's
I've
a level of
never
empathy.
Understood that about. Wait, so is Scorsese saying that you, the viewer, are feeling that, or you, the creator?
Yeah, because the viewer.
But you see, I've never understood these arguments for film. The idea that just because you're watching somebody do it, it means you're complicit in it. Because when I'm watching, I just think this guy's horrible.
Because there's context behind the movie, isn't there? Wait, hang on. What were you saying?
What I'm saying is that I don't understand why he's.
You
saying
always hated Travis
you are
Bickle.
Complicit. I do once you see him, like for the incel he is. Yeah.
I
think after the way he behaved with Betsy, and like the way you see him afterwards, there's no point where I think, oh, I feel for this guy.
Yeah, I agree, but it's not that though, and it's the slow unraveling of these revelations, because that on its own you're sort of just like, oh, that's pretty cringe, but it adds up, and especially the more he harasses her and is like, you're all the same, you're just like everyone else. But it's the journey that you're taking on with him, and the fact that he is the only audience character, he's the only point of view that you see.
I think I listened to Tarantino give this movie a review, and he does talk about how it's an incredibly good FOV of
POV.
Yeah, POV. Sorry, first person point of view of somebody descending into raw mania, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like 2.5 hours of that, and if that's your thing, that's your thing, I guess. But
It's only
I don't
an
know.
hour
I
and
think
54.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
think,
short
like,
actually.
There are probably a lot of other reasons as to why people love this film. I can't really put my finger on it aside from how encapsulating the general vibe is and the journey he goes through and the descent into madness. And
I
also
fully
the
fell in love
political-
with this movie.
The political commentary as well, I think, is pretty good.
I guess it's more like psychological commentary.
Masculinity,
Yeah.
loneliness,
the age-old
but-
Andrew
mental
Tate
health.
shit.
Yeah.
But just
It's
on
all
the
that.
Andrew Tate
the point
fans.
about Scorsese saying that we're complicit in it, I don't understand how we're complicit.
That's fine that you don't understand it. I guess because you... Not that I have empathy for Travis Bickle, but it's just like I'm going on his journey, so I get it from that perspective, and I understand what he's saying. I mean, I guess I do feel a bit bad for him. He's a fucking freak. I would hate to be a freak.
Because I think this is going to sound like
It's a
psycho,
sad,
but
miserable movie about his miserable life, and I feel a bit
Yeah.
bad for a man living a miserable life.
Yeah, and I think
And he's a misogynist, racist, weird pervert on top of that.
so. I think that gets to the heart of it because I can understand. So you know how when people say, "Oh, I don't like it when a particular film or a TV series is done about this person." Let's say it's a really horrible person from the past who's committed all sorts of atrocities.
Jeffrey
the film
Dahmer.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer. The other one
Monster.
is is it with Pedro Pascal? It's called. Is it Narcos? Pablo
Oh,
Escobar.
yeah. Have you seen that?
Yeah,
He's
like-
in that.
I've not seen it, but I remember one of the criticisms people gave was that allegedly it humanizes Pablo Escobar, and I think it's just stuff like that. I can understand why people say, "Oh yeah, you don't want to take somebody from real life who is obviously done all these really horrible things, and you make a film or a TV show which gives it like a humanized twist, where it shows them with a family being really loving, and they say that's bad. And I can understand why that's bad. But I think with something like Travis Bickle, at no point do I feel any sympathy for this guy whatsoever. So at no point do I think, oh yeah, this is a bad person, but they've humanized him, and I feel for the guy, even though he's racist, misogynistic, and really
I get you
narcissistic.
because they don't give you a clue about his past beyond. I don't know. He emails. He sends a letter to his parents, being like, "I'm like lying about his living situation."
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Like,
So you don't
there's no
know his
positive
backstory. So
thing.
to that level, yeah. But it's more the empathy of this is a human in these conditions, and you would go fucking crazy. Like, I don't know. And I agree with you about.
You see, I think if he just went crazy, and as in like he'd go to work, was really depressed and was really angsty, I think I would. But I think because what he then does, you know, by the way he pays with Betsy, the way he's really racist to those guys, I just don't think him entering this sort of
Yeah, you're not meant
maniacal
to empathize with that bit. That is it's an ugly portrait of it. Anyway, we need to wrap up
I
because
know. I
it's
just
very
want to say
late.
one quick thing on Taxi
go, go.
Driver here. I think it definitely does subvert the fundamental idea of what like movie storytelling was then and is now. Like the idea of the hero's journey. This is the anti-hero's journey, basically. Not even anti-hero. This is just the villain's journey.
Anti-hero
right?
applies.
How
He's not
often
the
do you-
villain because the POs
Yeah,
are the
he
villain.
is. Well, he is also a villain.
He's anti-hero.
Travis Bickle is a villain.
Is Tony Soprano anti-hero?
Tony Soprano is a hero.
A evil, cold-blooded murderer, racist, sexist, pig.
He's my hero. I like how he talks. He talks funny.
Alright, let's end this shit.
Let's end this, yeah.
Any ratings for these movies? Should we do that? We've done it the last two, so we might as well.
Batman Begins, 7. First Reformed, 7. Taxi Driver, 12.
Batman Begins, 4-star. I'll go 8. I'll stick with Haru's thing. 8. First Reformed, 9. Taxi Driver, 10.
Okay, once again.
Fuck it, 12.
Not.
It's a 12.
Once again, this is not what I think of these films as films. Purely the journey of enjoyment or lack thereof that I got from them. Batman Begins, 9. First Reformed,
9.
5.5 to a 6, probably 5.5. And Taxi Driver, I'll give it a 3. Again, not what I think of them
That
as
is
films.
why we do this
These
podcast.
ratings,
Purely to what
That
degree
is
drive
I
me
enjoyed
crazy.
or did
That is
not
why
enjoy
we do this.
them.
Right, okay, hang on. I'm just going to say something. Let's sign off, everybody. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, like Ben has just said, the whole reason we do these podcasts comes from Ben Garson just now giving Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, written by Paul Schrader, the masterpiece of its time that will extend timelessly into the future.
It's more relevant than ever now.
Magnificence, and it's more relevant than ever, and it always will remain relevant. He's given that a 3 out of 10. A 3.
Next week, we're doing The Prestige and, what's it called? Eyes Wide Shut, because Haroon asked a robot what to pair with The Prestige. And it said Eyes Wide Shut.
I do also like Stanley Kubrick. So.
Yeah, he's been going on and on and on about this Stanley Kubrick guy, so I guess we'll have to see what he's about.
I like to, yeah. Okay, well, thank you everybody for listening. It's been a great pleasure once again.
Very long
Sorry for it being
episode.
So long, yeah. We've been here for 3
had
hours.
technical
If
issues.
you've listened to
We
all of this,
have.
only been here for 2. So, until next time. Au revoir.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye.